Ben and Holly. Elf Submarine. The wise old elf has some exciting news. The elves in the elf factory have made a new toy. May I present the elf submarine, he says proudly. Does it float? Asks King Thistle. The wise old elf frowns. Of course the elf submarine floats. We carefully chose this day to test the submarine, he replies, because there are no other boats on the lake. Suddenly, Ben Elf spots a boat on the lake. It's Redbeard, he cries. The elf pirate! Ben is right. Redbeard is sailing towards them in his pirate ship. Should the ship be leaning like that? Wonders Princess Holly. No, says Nanny Plum. It is loaded up with too much treasure. Curses, bellows Redbeard, jumping off the side. The ship and the treasure sink down to the bottom of the lake. Ben and Holly feel very sorry for Mr. Redbeard. Me treasure, he cries. How will I get it back again? If only we had some way of sailing under water to look for it. Sighs King Thistle. Ben looks at the elf submarine. It is just the thing for rescuing pirate treasure. Captain Redbeard, says King Thistle, our submarine is at your service. I'll be needing a crew, says Redbeard. Mr. Elf, Nanny Plum, Ben and Holly all climb aboard. The submarine sets sail. Mr. Elf, bellows Redbeard, steer the submarine. Aye, aye, says Mr. Elf. Ben and Holly, adds Redbeard, wind up the engine. Aye, aye, say Ben and Holly. What shall I do? Wonders Nanny Plum. Redbeard grins. You just sit there and look pretty, my little mermaid. Ah, says Nanny Plum. Mr. Elf has a tale to tell as he steers the submarine. I used to be a sailor, he says, but I'm not any more. Why not? Asks Redbeard. Mr. Elf's voice is just a whisper. Big Bad Barry. Big Bad Barry is the biggest, most giganticest fish the world has ever seen. He's eaten 9 of Dad's boats, explains Ben. Redbeard gasps. Big Bad Barry sounds very bad indeed. The elf submarine dives down to the bottom of the lake. It's so pretty, cries Holly. Ben looks through the porthole. Suddenly he sees it. Redbeard's boat. A shadow falls over the submarine. It must be a big underwater cloud, decides Ben. Captain Redbeard shakes his head. You don't get clouds underwater. Shiver me timbers, he cries. It's a fish. Mr. Elf turns pale. It's not a cloud, and it's not just a fish. It's Big Bad Barry. He's swimming towards Redbeard's boat, cries Holly. No, thunders Redbeard. Me treasure. Too late. Big Bad Barry swallows the ship whole. Just like it was a grape. Nanny Plum walks in with a tray of tea. What a shame. She sighs. Shall we go home then? Before Mr. Elf can drive the submarine home, it all goes dark. Where are we? Asks Holly. I'll shave me beard off if there's not something fishy going on, says Redbeard. Turn on the lights, Mr. Elf. The crew spots Redbeard's ship and all of Mr. Elf's old boats too. We must be inside Big Bad Barry, says Ben. Ben is right. The elf submarine is inside the belly of a big fish. How are we going to get out? Asks Holly. If we could get Big Bad Barry to open his mouth, we could just sail out, says Ben. How do we do that? Groans Mr. Elf. Nanny Plum decides to phone the wise old elf for a bit of advice. Someone needs to talk to the fish, says the wise old elf. Nanny Plum smiles. I can speak fish. Good, replies the wise old elf. Tell Big Bad Barry a joke to make him laugh. Everybody climbs back into the elf submarine. Nanny Plum tries to think of a good fish joke. I know, she says. Glug glug, glug 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 glug, glug glug glug, glug glug. A deep rumble shakes the elf submarine. Big Bad Barry is starting to chuckle. I think he liked the joke, whispers Nanny Plum. Big Bad Barry laughs so hard he spits out the elf submarine. Full steam ahead, roars Redbeard. The elf submarine floats up to the surface. We did it, shouts Ben, opening the lid and climbing out. Hooray! Cheer King and Queen Thistle. It's a shame that the treasure is lost, says the wise old elf. It's not lost, replies Redbeard. I knows where it is. The captain flashes a piratey grin. No one will ever find his treasure in the belly of Big Bad Barry. See you soon. And that was Ben and Holly, Elf Submarine. Ben and Holly's Little Kingdom. Christmas at the North Pole. It's Christmas Eve. Mr. Elf is flying the elf plane to the North Pole with a very important toy delivery on board. Will we meet Father Christmas? Asks Princess Holly. No, Holly, we drop the toys by parachute, replies Mrs. Elf. Oh dear, something is wrong. We're going down! Mr. Elf calls before landing the elf plane safely in the snow. Now we're stuck at the North Pole, cries Nanny Plum. We'll never get back in time for the midnight elfin fairy feast. Never fear. Here comes the Arctic elves, says the wise old elf. Meet my twin brother. I didn't know you had a brother, says Nanny Plum, surprised. Your older and wiser brother by 3 minutes, boasts the wiser, older elf. Well, perhaps the wisest person here can get us home, grumbles Nanny Plum. Maybe Father Christmas could help, suggests Jake Elf. Very clever, exclaims the wise old elf. Follow me, everyone, calls the wiser, older elf, to the home of Father Christmas. But Gaston can't move. Clink, clink. He's frozen stiff. Inside, Gaston soon thaws out by the fire. Ruff, ruff. Wow! Father Christmas's feet are really big, cries Princess Holly, bouncing on a slipper. Shouldn't somebody be wrapping presents? Demands Nanny Plum. It's Christmas Eve. You're right, agrees the wiser older elf. To the present wrapping machines. The Arctic elves wrap the last of the presents. Who delivers them? Asks Violet. Oh, I do, of course, booms Father Christmas.
Now, I hear you're in a spot of bother. I've got some work to do tonight. I could drop you home on the way. Ho, 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 ho.
On the way back, the children deliver their friend Lucy's presents.
Don't forget the tangerine,
Father Christmas calls, throwing one down the chimney. Merry Christmas, Lucy, they all whisper as they leave. Next, Father Christmas makes a stop at the little kingdom. Hello, everyone! We are back! Cries Holly. Excellent! Exclaims King Thistle. Now, let's sing our Christmas song. The elf and fairy feast is here, so fill the world with festive cheer. Oompa, oompa, pom, pom, pom. Oompa, oompa, pom, pom, pom. All is merry in the little kingdom. Merry Christmas, everyone. And that was Ben and Holly's Little Kingdom. Christmas at the North Pole. Ben and Holly,
heroes to the rescue.
Holly and her friends are playing in the little meadow. Suddenly, Ben appears. Hello, Ben, says Holly. I'm not Ben, says Ben. When I put on my superhero costume, I'm Elfman. Elfman can run and jump and fly on his special elfmobile. Ruff, ruff. Ooh! Everyone gasps. We want to play superheroes too. Holly becomes Fairy Girl. Jake is Captain Crazy. And Barnaby becomes the strongest boy in the world. What about me? Asks Strawberry. Well, we can't all be goodies, says Ben. You can be a baddie, a supervillain. Good idea, says Strawberry. I'll be Strawberry Ice Queen. I'm going to take over the whole world, and you must try and stop me. Hurrah! It's Elfman and Fairy Girl against Strawberry Ice Queen and her gang, cries Ben. Do your worst, Ice Queen. We're off to the Elf Cave. In the Elf Cave, Strawberry Ice Queen appears on Ben's special elf computer. I am the Ice Queen, and I'm going to make everything freezy and cold, she tells Elfman and Fairy Girl. Strawberry Ice Queen waves her magic wand, and soon the whole of the little kingdom is covered in deep, deep snow. Snow in July, says the wise old elf. This is ridiculous. It must be magic. I'll bet my beard Nanny Plum has something to do with this. Let's go and see her. You must stop all this snow, Nanny Plum, says the wise old elf. It's nothing to do with me, says Nanny Plum. Maybe it's the work of a supervillain. Nonsense, says the wise old elf. Supervillains and superheroes don't exist. What's that then? Asks Nanny Plum, pointing to a big superhero sign in the sky. Elfman is making the superhero sign from inside the elf cave. When people need our help, they'll be able to find us by this special sign, he tells Fairy Girl. Just then, there is a knock at the door. Hello there, calls Mr. Elf. We need your help. The little kingdom is covered in snow. We think it's the work of a supervillain, adds Nanny Plum. Do not fear, we will take care of it, says Elfman from inside the cave, but we must keep our identities a secret. Elfman and Fairy Girl fly to Strawberry Ice Queen's secret hideout, a huge, sparkling palace made of ice. We've come to stop you, Ice Queen, say Elfman and Fairy Girl.
You can't stop me, says Strawberry Ice Queen.
But the grown-ups are a little bit cross about the freezing snow, says Holly.
Oh dear, says Strawberry. Maybe I should melt it.
Strawberry melts the ice palace and all the snow.
That's better, says Strawberry. My bottom was freezing sitting on that icy throne.
Oh, good. The sun has come out again, says the wise old elf later that day.
Yes, the little kingdom has been saved, thanks to Elfman and Fairy Girl, says Mr. Elf.
If only we knew their secret identities.
Ah, sighs Nanny Plum. But of course, they never will. And that was Ben and Holly. Heroes to the rescue!
Ben and Holly. Holly's naughty little sisters. It's breakfast time, and Princess Holly's twin sisters, Daisy and Poppy, are practicing a porridge spell. Little porridge! Fill, fill, fill! They should make breakfast more often, says King Thistle. Everyone is very impressed with them, except for Holly. I've got a bad feeling about this, she says. The twins giggle with excitement as they flutter out of their seats and wave their wands over the pot. More, more, more! They chant together. The pot starts to bubble, and the porridge gurgles up over the table, onto the floor, and... goes everywhere. Yuck! I'm covered in gooey porridge, thanks to my little sisters, cries Holly. Ah! Groans Queen Thistle. Ah! Grumbles King Thistle. No one is laughing, apart from Daisy and Poppy. Nanny Plum cleans up the porridgey mess in no time at all. Queen Thistle takes everyone outside to find Holly's friends, Barnaby, Ben, Fleur and Gaston. Daddy and I thought it would be fun if the twins played with you today, says the Queen. Okay, Mummy, Holly mumbles reluctantly. And Holly, please make sure you all stay in the courtyard, adds the Queen. Oh, they're so sweet and ickle, coos Fleur. The twins giggle innocently. Eee! Do you want to hold my wand? Fleur asks. No, don't, shouts Holly. But it's too late. Daisy grabs the wand and shakes it. Hee hee, kitty cat, she cries. Suddenly there is a loud and then meow. Queen Thistle changes Fleur back, and the children decide to play hide and seek. Fleur helps the twins to count, as they are very little. She covers her eyes and drops her magic wand. While the children are hiding, and Fleur has her eyes closed, the twins grab the magic wand. In a jiffy, they fly over the courtyard walls. At the great elf tree, they meet Mr. and Mrs. Elf. Bunny Rabbit, cries Daisy. The wind sparkles, and there is a loud squeak, says Mrs. Elf. The other elves look to see what all the squeaking is about. Daisy and Poppy giggle eagerly. It doesn't take long before all the elves are turned into bunny rabbits. Barnaby and Ben fetch Nanny Plum, but by the time they arrive, Daisy and Poppy have also turned Holly and Fleur into kittens, and themselves into birds. Meow, meow, moo Holly and Fleur. Squeak, squeak, cry the elves. Tweet, tweet, chirrup the twins. Luckily, birds can't hold wands, so Nanny Plum turns everyone back, and put the twins to bed before they can cause any more mischief. "The little darlings are getting really good at magic," says Nanny Plum happily. "Ah, they're fast asleep already," says King Thistle. "I expect playing with all you big children tired them out," says Queen Thistle. Yes, Mummy," says Holly, winking at Nanny Plum. "Something like that." "Goodbye for now, tweet, tweet, tweet." And that was Ben and Holly, Holly's naughty little sisters.
Ben and Holly, honeybees. It's a lovely sunny day, and everyone is enjoying a picnic on Picnic Hill. Yummy! Honey sandwiches, my favourite, says King Thistle. Suddenly, they hear a noise. Bzzz, bzzz, bzzz. Bees! Buzz off! Go away! Says King Thistle as the bees buzz around him. I don't like bees. You don't like bees? Asks Ben. But bees made the honey in your sandwiches. Really? Says King Thistle. How did they do that? Bees eat nectar from flowers, then turn it into honey in their hives, says Mr. Elf. Ben and Holly want to visit a beehive. Good idea, says King Thistle. I like honey. You can bring me back a nice fresh jar. Ben, Holly, Nanny Plum and Mr. Elf go to the beehive. The queen bee arrives with all her bees. Bees always follow the queen, says the wise old elf. He is the beekeeper, which is a very important job. We have come to get a jar of honey for King Thistle, Nanny Plum tells the wise old elf. Getting honey is very dangerous, says the wise old elf. The hive is full of thousands of bees, and every one of them has a stinger. But do not worry, I have a plan. A calm, safe, and sensible plan. The wise old elf's plan is to dress up as a bee. We will send the bees to sleep. Then Mrs. Elf will lower me into the beehive to collect the honey. If the bees wake up, they will think I'm a bee, so they won't sting me. Sounds like a silly plan to me, says Nanny Plum. Nanny Plum uses a spell to put the bees to sleep. Zzz. Zzz. Then Mrs. Elf lowers the wise old elf into the hive. Down a bit. Left a bit. No! Right a bit. The wise old elf collects a jar of sweet, runny honey. But what's that noise? Zzz. Bzzz. Uh-oh! The bees have woken up. Help! Get me out of here! Shouts the wise old elf. The bees chase the wise old elf out of the hive and all the way to the little castle. They think he's the queen bee, says Ben. Here's your jar of honey, says the wise old elf to King Thistle. What good service, says King Thistle. You're even dressed as a bee. Oh no! Now the bees have landed on the little castle. They think it's their new hive. Buzz off, cries King Thistle. Go away! Follow that bee! Lift me up, Mrs. Elf, shouts the wise old elf. The bees chase the wise old elf again, all the way back to the hive. The wise old elf takes off his bee costume and drops it into the hive. Look, shouts Holly, the bees are going back inside. There you are, a jar of honey, says the wise old elf. I told you my plan was calm, safe, and sensible.
Everyone laughs. "What's the matter?" asks the wise old elf. "Haven't you ever seen an elf in his underpants before?" And that was Ben and Holly, honeybees. Ben and Holly, King Thistle's new clothes. Today's adventure starts at the little castle. King and Queen Marigold are coming to the little castle today, but Queen Thistle is worried. "They are very fashionable," she warns the king. "I don't want them to think we look scruffy." King Thistle looks very scruffy. His clothes are covered in splodges and cake crumbs. "This is why I have ordered the elf tailor to make you some new clothes," says the queen. While King Thistle has a bath, the elf tailor arrives with the new clothes. "Oh, very nice," says Nanny Plum. "Oh, please, don't prod it," cries the elf tailor. "This is a very delicate fabric, which means you must not clean it with magic," he warns them as he leaves. Queen Thistle thinks she can see a speck of dirt on the new clothes. She brushes the fabric with a feather duster, but it leaves a big dirty mark. "Mummy!" cries Princess Holly. "You've made Daddy's new clothes dirty." Nanny Plum has an idea. "There's nothing clothes like better than a good hot soapy wash," she says merrily. Nanny Plum puts the new clothes in the washing machine. Holly goes to collect the king's scruffy old clothes too. "We're going to wash all your clothes," she tells King Thistle. "Okay," says the king, singing happily from the bath. "La la 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 la." Holly, Ben and Nanny Plum wait by the washing machine until they hear ding! "Finished," says Holly. But when Nanny takes out the clothes, they've all shrunk. Oh dear. "Maybe when the clothes are dry, they'll go back to their normal size," suggests Ben. "Yes, Ben, I'll just do a simple spell to dry them," says Nanny. She waves her magic wand. "Abracadabra, make clothes dry. Thunder and lightning, flames and fire." Oh no, the elf tailor said not to use magic, and now the clothes are burnt. But Holly has one more idea. "We can make magic clothes," cries Holly. First, Nanny Plum needs something shoe-shaped to turn into shoes. "Carrots," says Ben. Nanny waves her magic wand and the carrots turn into special new shoes. Then she makes a jacket from a tomato and a crown from a lemon. While King Thistle gets changed, Nanny Plum, Ben and Holly go to meet King and Queen Marigold. "King Thistle won't be a moment. He's just changing into his new clothes," says Nanny Plum. "Oh, new clothes," says King Marigold excitedly. "That sounds interesting. Oh." Soon, King Thistle appears. Oh, that's fantastic," gasps King Marigold. "So fresh and exciting. Marvels Queen Marigold. They love the king's outfit. What a relief. But then the clothes start to make a strange sound. King Thistle's shoes have turned back into carrots. The jacket is a tomato again. The crown changes into a lemon. Oh, I say King and Queen Marigold. "Silly Daddy," cries Holly. "There's a lemon on your head." King and Queen Marigold don't think that the King Thistle looks silly. They love his new clothes even more.
I've never seen anything like it. Absolute genius,
says King Marigold. King Thistle just looks a bit confused. Then his tummy rumbles. It's time for dinner. I can make anything you like, says Nanny, as long as you don't want carrots, tomatoes or lemons. Bye for now. And that was Ben and Holly's Little Kingdom, King Thistle's New Clothes. Ben and Holly. Mr. Elf takes a holiday. It's Tuesday, but Mr. Elf has delivered King Thistle's Monday morning breakfast. Egg and baked beans. Oh dear, says King Thistle. I always have muffins on a Tuesday. You've been working too hard, Mr. Elf. You must go away on holiday for a rest. But I don't like holidays, says Mr. Elf. Princess Holly, Ben Elf and Mrs. Elf love holidays. Mr. Elf looks worried as they set off in the elf plane. Do try to enjoy yourself, says Mrs. Elf. But what if something goes wrong, says Mr. Elf. Don't be silly, says Mrs. Elf. What could possibly go wrong? Possibly. But something does go wrong. The engine has a problem and Mr. Elf has to land the elf plane in the sea. Splash! Oh, look, a desert island, says Mrs. Elf. What a lovely place for a holiday. Oh, no, stranded on a desert island, says Mr. Elf. How will we get home? Don't worry, says Ben. We will write a message and put it in a bottle. The bottle will float away and someone will find it and come and rescue us. Oh, how long will it take? Says Mr. Elf in a worried voice. Only about 20 years, says Holly. Mrs. Elf, Ben and Holly are enjoying their holiday, but Mr. Elf is bored. Do try to relax, says Mrs. Elf. I can't, says Mr. Elf. I can only relax when I'm very busy. Mr. Elf goes off to explore the island and find something to do. Meanwhile, in the little kingdom, Strawberry, Jake and Barnaby are missing Ben and Holly. I've been gone for ages, says Strawberry. Oh, look! What's that? The friends take the message to the wise old elf. It's from Ben Elf. They're trapped on a desert island, says Barnaby. We must rescue them at once, says the wise old elf. Mrs. Elf has been relaxing by being hard at work. He found a huge coconut and now he's busy building a hut. I'm having a lovely time, he says. The others are bored. They're fed up with eating coconuts and they want to go home. Elf rescue arrives. Hooray! Cry Ben, Holly and Mrs. Elf. But I don't want to leave, says Mr. Elf. What about my work? You have lots of work to do at home, shouts the wise old elf. All right, I'll go back and sort it out, sighs Mr. Elf. But I must say, this has been the best holiday I've ever had. And that was Ben and Holly. Mr. Elf takes a holiday. Ben and Holly, Pirate Redbeard. Princess Holly and Nanny Plum join Ben and Barnaby at the river to meet Barnaby's uncle. Uncle Redbeard is an elf pirate. He is returning from the sea today, says Barnaby. Here he is now, says Barnaby's dad, joining them at the riverbank. A huge vessel draws up and drops anchor. Uncle Redbeard looks splendid. Anchors away! Shiver me timbers! He booms. Everyone gazes wide-eyed at Pirate Redbeard. Barnaby is thrilled to see him. These are my friends, Ben and Holly, he says. Ahar, a pleasure, me hearties, says Pirate Redbeard. With a loud squawk, a large parrot hops onto the shore. Ooh, murmur Ben and Holly. Me faithful parrot, Polly, explains Pirate Redbeard. She alone was my companion as we sailed through the endless waters. Pieces of 8, thunders Polly. Everyone has to take a step back. Even the reeds at the riverbank shake with the noise. Tell us the piratey things you did, says Barnaby. Well, what self-respecting pirate would be without treasure, says Pirate Redbeard. He pulls out an old tattered map. It's a map of the little kingdom, yells Ben, and there's an X in the meadow. Pirate Redbeard lifts up his eye patch and grins. To the meadow, he cries. Pirate Redbeard reads out a riddle on the back of the map. Roses are red, the sky is big. Mix 'em together and you'll know where to dig. Say the children, thinking hard. Fleur and Strawberry arrive and think about it too. The roses are red and the sky is blue. Mix them together and you get purple. It's the purple flower, say Fleur and Strawberry. Yay! Barnaby and Ben start to dig. They love digging, of course, because they are elves. Instead of unearthing treasure, Ben and Barnaby find another map. You can't just find treasure with one clue. It wouldn't be fun, explains Pirate Redbeard. The X is marked on Gaston's cave, said Ben. So the friends dash off in that direction. Gaston is pleased to have visitors. Pirate Redbeard reads out the riddle. I'm easily spotted, and where I lay you'll find the clue to show you the way. Gaston's got spots on his back. And Gaston's bed is where he lies, says Holly. They look in Gaston's bed and find another map. Ooh, the little X is on the little castle. To the little castle, says Pirate Redbeard. King and Queen Thistle are a little shocked to see a pirate. Your Majesties, do not fear. I am not a nasty pirate. I am Redbeard, the elf pirate, announces Pirate Redbeard. King Thistle clears his throat. Oh, well, that's all right then, he says. Pirate Redbeard reads the riddle. Up the castle, I point to the sky, and hidden underneath me is where the clue lies. Why don't you take a look under the roof, suggests the king. Nanny Plum uses magic to lift up the roof and finds another map. The X is at the river, shouts King Thistle. Let's go, yells Barnaby. Everyone hurries to the riverbank. We're back where we started, says Ben, puzzled. Up and down and side to side. It's inside this thing I really hide, says Redbeard. The ship goes up and down, says Fleur, and it goes side to side, says Strawberry. Pirate Redbeard jumps aboard and soon discovers the treasure chest. The treasure was here all the time, cries Nanny Plum. But didn't we have fun, says Pirate Redbeard, grinning. Fun is what it's all about when you're an elf pirate, and I'm an elf pirate. Pirate Redbeard thanks everyone for their help. And now I must return to distant waters. Hoist the mainsail, Polly. Weigh anchor. Scrub the decks. Scrap. Pieces of 8, replies Polly. The children wave him off. When I grow up, I want to be a pirate, says Holly. Me too, says Ben. And me, and me, and me, says Barnaby, Fleur and Strawberry. Ruff, ruff, agrees Gaston. Until next time, me hearties. And that was Ben and Holly, Pirate Redbeard. Ben and Holly, the Shooting Star. One evening, Ben and Holly are taking turns to look through the wise old elf's telescope. Amazing! Cries Ben. Ah! One of the stars is moving! Maybe it's a shooting star, says the wise old elf. Oh no! Squeals Holly. It's going to crash into the ground! In the morning, everyone gathers round the big hole where the shooting star has landed. Is it a spaceship? Asks King Thistle. It's a flying saucer, says Mrs. Elf. The top flips open and out pop 4 aliens. Blip blop, say the aliens, grinning. Ah! Yells the wise old elf. Alien invasion! Everyone panic! It's the friendly aliens we met on the moon, says Ben. Hello, says Holly. My name is Xyros, says the small green alien leader. We come in peace. We are here on holidays. King Thistle looks nervous. Have you come far? He asks. We come from planet Bong, replies Xyros. But that spaceship is crashed. You, Thistle King, must fix it. Me? Says King Thistle, scratching his head. Maybe I should take a look, Your Majesty. Elves are good at fixing flying saucers, says the wise old elf. And I'm an elf. While the spaceship is being mended, Ben and Holly take the aliens on a tour of the little kingdom. First stop, Gaston's cave, says Holly. This is our friend Gaston, the ladybird, says Ben. Is the ladybird for eating? Asks one of the aliens. No, we don't eat our friends, cries Ben. Ben and Holly show the aliens the little castle and then the great elf tree. This is such a wonderful planet, declares Xyros. Have you been to other planets on holiday? Asks Holly. Oh, yes, but this is the best. There are no big people to step on us, says Xyros. Hello, says Lucy, who is Ben and Holly's big friend. Perhaps it is time for end of holiday, says Xyros. Let's go and see if your flying saucer is mended, says Ben. The wise old elf has fixed the flying saucer. Elves are good at fixing flying saucers. Ben, Holly, would you like a little ride before we go? Asks Xyros. Yes, please. They giggle. The aliens drop Ben and Holly back at the little castle. Bye, Ben. Bye, Holly, says Xyros. Next time you go on holiday, you must come to Planet Bong. We will, Ben and Holly call back. See you soon. Goodbye. They wave as the spaceship flies back towards the stars. And that was Ben and Holly, the Shooting Star. Ben and Holly, Wand Factory. It is a lovely sunny day. Strawberry rings the castle bell. Ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling. Hello, says Nanny Plum. Have you come to join us for wand practice? Strawberry frowns. She wants to play with Princess Holly. I don't know where my wand is, mumbles Strawberry. Nanny Plum looks at the fairy. Her wand is right there in her hand. Oh, mutters Strawberry. Come along, says Nanny Plum. You know how much fun wand practice is. Nanny Plum tells the fairies to practice lifting rocks up and down with magic. Up and down, says Holly, again and again. Up and down, yawns Strawberry. Wand practice is very boring. Strawberry and Holly lift the rock up and down, lots and lots. After a while, they forget to be gentle with their wands. Crunch! Holly breaks her wand on the rock. Ben and Jake run over to see what's going on. Holly tells them that her wand has snapped and the spring has come out. Holly! Strawberry! Calls a voice. How's wand practice coming along? Oh dear, says Holly. It's Nanny Plum. Holly has bashed her wand on a rock, blurts out Strawberry. Sorry, Nanny, whispers Holly. That wasn't very clever, says Nanny, but not to worry. We'll just get it mended. Nanny Plum takes the children to the elf factory. All fairy wands are made at the elf factory. Why do elves make wands? Wonders Holly. They don't do magic. Nanny Plum explains the elf don't use the wands, they just make them. The wise old elf comes to take a look at Holly's wand. I see, he says. Not to worry, we'll just mend it. Follow me. Everybody puts on hard hats. The wise old elf takes them deep underground. Level 500, he says at last. The wand factory. Why is the wand factory so deep underground? Asks Holly. Because wands are magic, says Ben. And elves don't like magic, chips in Jake. A machine takes an x-ray of Holly's wand. It needs a new stick and a cog service, decides the wise old elf. This way. This is the stick house, announces the wise old elf. It's where we grow wooden sticks for wands. The children look around. There are sticks everywhere. Sticks for wands have to be specially grown from the right kind of trees. The wood for my wand comes from a plum tree, says Nanny Plum. Holly giggles. The wood for her wand must come from a holly tree. The wise old elf cuts a stick from a holly tree, then fixes it to Holly's wand. Let's see how that feels, he says. Holly gives the wand a shake. Says Holly. It's a bit big. The wise old elf snips the leaves off the wand stick. Now it looks perfect. Is it ready? Smiles Holly. Not yet, replies the wise old elf. We need to mend the head. Follow me. The wise old elf leads the way to the clockwork room. He starts mending. It looks very complicated, says Holly. The wise old elf agrees. Mending a wand head is a mixture of surgery and watchmaking. Everybody waits. The wise old elf tinkers. At last the wand is mended. Can we go home now? Asks Nanny Plum. Not yet, replies the wise old elf. It needs testing. This is the wand testing room, says the wise old elf. It is the safest place to do magic in the little kingdom. Where's the fun in that? Asks Nanny Plum. The wise old elf tuts. There is no fun. Elves only do safe and sensible magic. The wand testing robot is set. It is going to turn a glass of lemonade into something else. The robot casts a spell. The wise old elf unlocks the testing room and goes inside. He comes back out holding a glass. Holly's wand has turned the lemonade into a glass of water, he says proudly. Why would you want to do that? Groaned Strawberry. That's rubbish magic, says Nanny Plum. It's very sensible magic, argues the wise old elf. What would you turn it into? Nanny Plum decides to cast a different spell. My wand's not working, gasps Nanny Plum. It's rattling. The wise old elf takes a look. Here, he says, try that. Nanny Plum tries again. Ding! She changes the wise old elf into a frog. Yes, that's much better, she declares. Holly gives her wand a cuddle. It's good to have you back again, she whispers. I promise to take special care of you from now on. See you soon. And that was Ben and Holly. Wand Factory, Ben and Holly. The Lost Egg. Ben Elf and Princess Holly are playing catch, but they've lost their ball. Where did this come from? Asks Ben, finding a spotty blue thing. Have you turned our ball into something else with your magic wand, Holly? No, Ben, I think it's some sort of egg, cries Holly. Let's see what Nanny thinks. That's a bird's egg, explains Nanny Plum. Good day, shouts the wise old elf. I think you'll find this is a blackbird's egg, and there's a baby chick inside. Ooh, gasp Ben and Holly excitedly. How do you know there's a chick inside? Asks Ben. You can hear tapping, explains the wise old elf. Listen. Ooh, smiles Holly. Can we look after it, Nanny? No, Holly, replies Nanny Plum. You must never collect the eggs of wild birds. We must find its mummy instead. Nanny Plum decides they should build a nest to keep the egg warm while they find the mummy bird. Just then, King Thistle arrives. Your Majesty, says Nanny, if you could sit on the egg to keep it warm while we build a nest, that would be kind. Very well, replies the king, sitting right on top of the egg. I say, states King Thistle, this is jolly uncomfortable. We'll be as quick as we can, says the wise old elf. The elves pick up sticks and the fairies find thistledown for the nest. Then Nanny Plum says the magic words and zap! A perfect nest appears. King Thistle jumps off the egg. Crack! Oh, Daddy, gasps Holly. You've broken the egg. No, he hasn't, smiles Ben Elf. The egg is hatching. Look! Suddenly, a little chick peers out of the broken eggshell. Cheep, cheep. The chick is following Nanny, cries Holly. Don't follow me, says Nanny. I'm not your mummy. The chick is hungry, says the wise old elf. It wants worms and other insects. Gaston is an insect, begins Ben. Oh dear, now Gaston looks very nervous. Gaston, maybe you should stand back a bit, suggests Princess Holly. We can try worm charming to feed the chick, says the wise old elf, stamping his feet on the ground. The worms will think it's raining, so they will come up to breathe. Everyone stamps their feet on the ground really hard. Thud, thud, thud. But the worms are just too quick to catch. The baby bird is very hungry now, cries Holly. The mummy bird normally comes when her baby calls out to her, says the wise old elf. But the baby bird is not chirping loudly enough. Nanny Plum decides to try a spell. Zig zag zig, make it big. Cheep 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 cheep. Cheep
cheep.
Kaboom! Oh dear. Nanny Plum has made the chick bigger, so it chirps will be louder. But she didn't mean to make the chick enormous.
Cheep, cheep,
Chirps the baby bird very loudly. How long will the spell last? Asks King Thistle. It could be a minute or a week, replies Nanny Plum nervously. Hooray! The spell has worn off and the mummy bird has arrived. She must have heard the lord chirping. The chick is very happy and flies off with its mummy. Nanny, now I'm hungry, says Holly, her tummy rumbling. How about some nice juicy worms? Smiles Ben. Yuck! Everyone cries. Hee! Ben and Holly say, Goodbye, everyone! And that was Ben and Holly, the lost egg. Ben and Holly, the toy robot. Princess Holly, Ben Elf, and their friends Barnaby and Strawberry are playing a game of fetch with Gaston the ladybird. Ruff, ruff! Gaston likes fetching sticks, but this time he has found something else.
That looks like a tin arm,
cries Barnaby. Gaston, says Ben, looking at the object curiously. Where did you find this? Gaston leads everyone through the grass to the place where he found the arm. Wow! The children gasp, surprised. It's a toy robot, but it's a bit broken. We could mend it with magic, suggests Strawberry.
No, we'll fix it the elf way,
says Barnaby.
Elves are very good at fixing things.
And we're elves! Cheer Ben and Barnaby together proudly. They blow their elf horns as loud as they can. Bang! Bang! Thunk! Thunk! Ben and Barnaby are fixing the toy robot. There! All finished, says Ben. Ooh! Cry the fairies, clapping their hands excitedly. Will it talk? Will it make me a cup of tea? Asks Strawberry. No, it's just a toy, says Ben. It will do this. Ben and Barnaby do a very funny robot toy walk. Let's switch the robot on, says Ben. He presses a button, but nothing happens. I'll magic a key to wind it up, says Holly. Ben and Barnaby don't want to use magic, but Holly waves her magic wand and twinkle, twinkle! Suddenly, the robot opens his eyes and looks at Ben.
Master, what is your name?
I'm Ben Elf, says Ben nervously.
Ben Elf, you are my master,
says the robot.
I only answer to my master.
The wise old elf arrives, and Ben tells him how he and Barnaby fixed the robot.
Ah, yes, the Elf Factory Z33,
explains the wise old elf.
a basic model.
The robot does not like being called basic, so he picks the wise old elf up and waves him in the air. Robot, shouts Ben, put the wise old elf down. The robot does as Ben says, but then he wanders off. The children run after him as quickly as they can. They run all the way to the little castle. What is this thing? Asks Nanny Plum, a little confused.
It's a toy robot that does everything Ben says,
explains Holly. I'd like one of those to do all my cleaning, says Nanny Plum. Ben lends Nanny Plum the robot for the evening. Robot, says Ben, I'm going home now, but I want you to stay here and tidy everything up in the whole of the castle.
Yes, Ben Elf.
replies the robot obediently. Ben goes home and the robot zooms around the little castle, tidying up everything as fast as he can. Must tidy up, he repeats loudly over and over again. King Thistle thinks he's doing a good job at first, but then the robot gets out of control. Must tidy up, must tidy up, must tidy up, must tidy up. We should tell this robot to stop, says Queen Thistle.
We can't, cries Holly. The robot only listens to Ben, and Ben told him to tidy the whole castle. Maybe we should go to bed and let the robot finish.
The royal family go to sleep, but soon after the robot wakes them up. He picks them up and takes them outside along with all the castle furniture.
The robot is tidying everything up,
cries Holly. Yes, gasps King Thistle, including us.
Only Ben can stop this,
says Holly. So Queen Thistle telephones Ben Elf's mum, Mrs. Elf. Mrs. Elf wakes Ben up.
There's an emergency at the little castle. We have to go.
So Ben gets the elves together and they walk to the little castle, singing as they go.
Who's the best at rescuing?
Chants the wise old elf.
Elves are best at rescuing,
reply all the elves.
And what are we?
Replies the wise old elf.
We're elf,
shout the elves. The elves soon find the fairies and notice the robot is moving slower and slower.
Master,
says the robot, seeing Ben. But suddenly its eyes close and it stops. Hooray! Everyone cheers.
I think it was my magic key that made the robot act so strangely,
admits Holly. Just then, Gaston the ladybird arrives with something in his mouth.
Ruff, ruff! It's the proper key,
gasps Ben.
Well done, Gaston!
Ben takes the key and starts winding up the robot. Ben, are you sure that's a good idea? Asks King Thistle.
It will be fine,
replies Ben. The robot starts to walk with its arms out. Hee chant the children, doing the toy robot walk.
Ah, that's the toy robot I remember,
says the wise old elf, smiling.
Must say goodbye, goodbye.
And that was Ben and Holly, the toy robot. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, be sure and like the video and subscribe to the channel. Read us a story. Thanks. Bye.